Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Arabic Rhetoric course with Sidra Institute, inshallah. Before we actually commence with the lessons, just a few housekeeping rules, inshallah, we will cover. I know we don't like rules and laws because we've got so many around anyway. So I'll just call it guidelines. So just to understand what the format of the lessons, how they're going to be, and it's just good to know. So firstly, lessons will be delivered by the teacher for the first part without interaction. So students who want to revisit the lesson, they can easily understand the lesson without interruptions and interference. But there will be interaction later on. It's just for the first part. So whatever of the part of the lesson that needs to be covered, inshallah, will be covered without any interference or interruption. Um, the second thing, students can ask questions through Zoom chat. So there is an actual option for the chat. I've just uploaded the chat box. Okay, so if students do want to ask questions during the lesson, then they can use the chat box. And also outside of the lesson, you can use obviously the Telegram group to ask questions or any queries that you have. Audio, sound, and video camera will be turned off to respect the privacy of students and participants. So that's why obviously you can use the chat if somebody does not want to use the audio. And obviously video cameras is probably best suitable if you just have them off for privacy purposes, etc. Please don't hesitate in asking questions during and outside of the lessons, as it is my job to ensure you are understanding the lessons. So this plays a big part of obviously learning. It's not about me delivering the lesson and that's it, and one-way traffic and lecturing. I do want to make these lessons engaging, best possible. So for that reason, obviously, if you do have any questions, please do ask. And if it's within my, something within my capacity to answer those questions, I will answer to the best of my ability. And if it's something that I don't have knowledge of, or I don't know, then I will, tell you that. And if I'll probably research, but it should be related to the actual subject itself, because we don't want to drift off onto other subjects. Yeah, so lessons will be PowerPointed and no book will be required for this actual course. It will be all PowerPointed, but there's no need to worry. I know you did ask before if there's any book. I have actually wrote a book on Balaga in Arabic and English, alhamdulillah, but it's not been published yet. So these lessons are actually of design from those books, from the book, Arabic book. But inshallah, in due course, obviously, Allah wills, inshallah, will be published for the benefit of people. But at the current moment, obviously, there's no book that I can physically give you. But the PowerPoint lessons are well structured, and inshallah, the lessons will have summaries as well, which I will mention about. Taking notes during lessons. So because it's PowerPointed lessons, it's good practice probably to take notes whilst the lesson is being delivered. And obviously, mashallah, you're more than capable of obviously, taking notes at the when and required. Now, this is the part I want to just quickly mention about. Summary will be provided at the end of completing the full lesson, though it may take some sessions to complete the lesson. So obviously, the lessons that we'll be covering in Balaga, at the end of each lesson, so it won't be a session. So if, for example, this week we had a session, but that does not mean we completed the whole lesson. You might move on to the next week, and then after 2 weeks, we might finish a whole lesson because I've designed them in lessons, the PowerPoints, which you'll get to know about. So at the end of each lesson, a summary will be provided, and I'll share that PDF with yourself, and that'll give you a whole conclusion of what that lesson was about. So that will be your kind of basis and foundation of having something to follow and something tangible for yourself. And inshallah, that will give you an overview of the lesson as well. So all the lessons will be delivered with Arabic text. There will be no English involved because I don't really believe when you're studying Balaga, there should be too much translation given of text, etc. Should be free flowing in Arabic. The lessons obviously I'll be teaching in English medium, but the text that appears in the PowerPoint presentation will solely be in Arabic, but I will guide through the English explanation of the text. Yeah, so without any further delay, and one last thing, which is the most important thing, enjoy your journey of learning Arabic rhetoric. Okay, and I'm very excited on embarking on this journey of imparting knowledge and actually learning from yourself more than me teaching you. I'll be actually learning from yourself as well. Okay, so inshallah, that's said from my behalf. So inshallah, let's get started with the introduction. So before we actually move into the durus of Arabic rhetoric, it's kind of important to understand what is Arabic rhetoric about. We hear these terms, fasaha and balaga. So what do these words actually mean and entail? So that's why I've kept the introduction. So once we cover the introduction, it might take a few sessions to get through the introduction, but then inshallah, once we get to the lessons, that's when it get inshallah more exciting and interesting what actually Balagha is about. But inshallah, we'll go through the introduction. It's good to know the technical and literal meanings of Fasaha and Balagha. So al-muqaddimatu, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we have al-muqaddimatu fil fasahati wal balaghati. I do apologize for the fancy writing. If it's just a font I used, so just for the front pages of certain lessons and introduction. The word al-muqaddimatu, you can read it al-muqaddamatu, which means introduction. في الفصاحة والبلاغة means in regards to al-fasaha and balagha. I would probably just translate fasaha currently as eloquence and balagha as Arabic rhetoric, but we'll actually go more deep into these words and what they actually mean and consist of. So inshallah, let's get started. We have the first word, al-fasahatu. Al-fasahatu. Okay, so lughatan, what is the literal and linguistic meaning of al-fasahatu? That's what we inshallah want to cover. Okay, so the linguistic and the literal meaning al-fasahatu is al-bayanu wal-dhuhur. Al-bayan means to be clear, and al-dhuhur means to be apparent. So let's see how this meaning of al-fasaha, the literal meaning, is found in the verse of the Quran and Arabic sayings. So we have the verse of the Quran, we have the Quranic verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأخي هارون هو أفصح مني لسانا. So we have the verse of the Quran here. Prophet Musa alayhi salam obviously mentioned that my brother Harun wa akhi. Let me just put the what do you call it, laser point. Okay, so it's kind of easy to follow through. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran وأخي هارون هو أفصح مني لسانا. And my brother Harun, he is more. Afsah means clear. Minni than me. Lisanan literally means tongue. But sometimes in Arabic what they do is they use the ismul ala, the noun of instrument, for something. So you use the instrument, but the actual um, underlining meaning is, the surface meaning is tongue, but the underlining meaning will be speech, because you use the tongue to articulate, express, and talk and converse. So you have that in Arabic. We'll cover that in Balaghah. It actually comes under majaz, which we'll cover later on, inshallah. So lisanan we actually would translate as mantiqan. So here we can see the meaning of bayan found here in the Quranic verse. And my brother Harun, he is more clear than me. Abyanu minni lisanan. So we can see here, a abyanu minni mantiqan. His afsahu means abyanu. He's more clear than me in mantiqan, speech. Mantiqan is masdar mimi, nataqa yantiqu, nutqan, and mantiqan. Obviously, you can bring that as masdar mimi. وأظهر مني قولا, and he's more apparent than me in statement or speaking or articulation. Okay, so this is one example of the literal meaning of fasaha found in the Quran. So let's go on to another meaning, how the Arabs use the word fasaha in the Arabic language. So we have the phrase أفصح اللبن إذا أفصح اللبن. Okay, just give me 1 second. Please tell me, do tell me if I'm actually going fast, because obviously sometimes when you're teaching, you can be, um, speaking too fast. That's the problem with us teachers. We have a very bad habit of reading, delivering lessons very quickly, and tongue just starts, just speaking, and then, alhamdulillah, sometimes it can be a bit too quick. Okay, good speed. Okay, that's good to hear. Okay, so we have the Arabic phrase أفصح اللبن. So the milk is fasih. What do you mean by the milk is fasih? The milk is clear. We say this statement in Arabic إذا ذهبت رغوته, when the foam of the milk goes away. So when you have, let me put the laser on. Okay, there. Okay, so when you have milk, okay, fresh milk, which has just been, extracted from the cow's udders, etc., and the milk starts to settle, what happens is you get foam building up at the top of the milk. So the process of skimming the milk is to remove the foam. So when you remove the foam from the milk, so إذا ذهبت رغوته, when the foam of the milk is removed, the milk becomes apparent and the foam is removed, you will say أفصح اللبن, the milk is clear, the milk is apparent, meaning it has now been skimmed and we've removed, and the foam has been removed. So we can see the meaning of bayan unfolding here. Also moving on to another sentence which is used in the Arabic language, أفصح الصبح. أفصح الصبح, that the morning is fasih, the morning is apparent, the morning is clear. When do we say this? إذا بدا ضوءه, when its light becomes apparent. So when the light of the morning becomes apparent and it becomes clear and daylight breaks out, then we will say أفصح الصبح, that the morning is clear. So the word meaning of zuhur is found here. Okay. We have another example. أفصح النهار. أفصح النهار, that the day. So before is morning, now we have the day is fasih, the day is clear, the day is apparent. When do we say this? إذا خلا من الغيم والقر, when the day is free from clouds, and al-qur means, cold, bitterness, frost. So when the day is free from, cloud and cold and, frost and, mist and, fog, etc., you will say أفصح النهار, أفصح النهار, that the day is clear. So the meaning of to be clear is found. Next we have the phrase in Arabic فصح الأعجمي. أعجمي is someone who's a non-Arab. So the non-Arab is now fasih. What does that mean? إذا تكلم بلغة عربية سليمة. That now he has the ability and aptitude to converse in sound Arabic language. So when a non-Arab is now able to converse and speak and eloquently in Arabic, we will say فصح الأعجمي, meaning now the non-Arab speaking person, his speech has become clear. Fasuha, meaning it's become clear. Okay. So another example of the linguistic meaning of fasaha pointing towards bayan and zuhur is afsah al-bawlu. The urine is clear. When do we say this? إذا صفى لونه. When it's wrong, when it's color, you use the Urdu there, wrong. If you know Urdu, it's okay, it's fine. إذا صفى لونه, when its color becomes clear. So sometimes because of infection or illness or etc., it can impact the color. Okay, you don't know Urdu. Okay, so if I do say any Urdu words, please just bear with me. So due to illness or infection, sometimes the urine becomes discolored. So when the urine becomes clear, you say أفصح البول, that the urine now is clear. Can't say pure, obviously, because it's impure, but we'll say it's clear. So it's got the meaning of being clear. Al-bayan. Let's move on. This is the last one. The list can go on, but I've just mentioned just what is probably brings out the meaning of al-bayan, al-fasaha. So this is the last one. So afsah al-farasu, that the horse is fasih, meaning the sound and the voice of the horse has now become clear. When do we say this? إذا صفى صهيله, when the neighing of the horse becomes apparent or clear. So sometimes, obviously, you see animals, etc., they do actually suffer weakness, fatigue, etc., and it might actually impact their actual voice and sound. But the neighing of the horse, when it becomes apparent and distinct and clear, we say afsahal farasu. So, we can understand from all these examples that the literal meaning of fasaha entails al-bayan wa zuhur. Some shape or some way or one way or another, it has the meaning of to be clear or apparent. Okay, so now let's move on to the main thing. That was the literal meaning. What is the istilahan? What is the technical meaning of fasaha? So in the science of Arabic rhetoric, balaga, what is the technical meaning of fasaha? Okay, so هي أن يكون الكلام واضح المعنى سهل اللفظ سليم التأليف موافقا لقواعد اللغة. That the technical meaning of fasaha is that it's when speech, kalam, discourse or speech, is واضح المعنى, when it's clear in meaning, it's obvious or clear in meaning. So the sentence is not constructed in such a way that one finds it difficult to understand the sentence, because the sentence construction is either mumble jumbled up and words are all over the place and you can't kind of make sense, or probably the words used in the sentence may actually not be used in their normal and conventional meanings. So that causes a bit of complexity and difficulty in the meaning. So what happens is that will deem the sentence to be ineloquent. So the sentence has to be clear in meaning. There can't be words that are used in the sentence that can be like sound like, like a riddle. You have to figure things out like a riddle. Okay, so fasaha is when the speech and discourse is clear in meaning. Sahl al-lafzi, it's easy in expression or pronunciation. So there's a flow when you actually say those words. When you sentences, a kalam is made up of words. So the words, when you actually say those words together, um, you find it easy to pronounce those words, and they're not challenging and difficult on the tongue, which we will learn about in a bit more detail, inshallah. So sahl al just means that the words are easy to pronounce. Then we have salim at-ta'lifi, that this sentence is sound in compilation. So when we're actually compiling the sentence and we are constructing the sentence, it does not go according to the rules of Nahu, Arabic syntax. So salim at-ta'lif is in relation to Arabic syntax, Nahu, which we call. So the sentence construction does not go against the rules of Nahu. So for example, Inna Allah ghafurun. You will not read Inna Allahu ghafuran, because obviously it's against the rules of Nahu. So Salim at-Ta'lif is sound in compilation, meaning it agrees with the rules of Arabic syntax. Nahu. موافقا لقواعد اللغة. Also, the speech or the sentence has to agree with the rules of the language. Here we're talking about sarf, morphology. So for a sentence to be fasih, or a speech to be fasih, it has to agree with the rules of sarf. If any words used in the sentence which contradict the rules of sarf, which obviously are unanimously agreed upon, then we will say that this sentence or speech is ineloquent. So there has to be conformity of the speech with the rules of sarf. Okay, so up until this slide, okay, are there any questions in regards to the linguistic meaning or the technical meaning? Inshallah, we will go more into depth about fasaha. It might take a few lessons, and then we move on to Balagha. Everything is clear so far, Alhamdulillah. Summa Alhamdulillah. So let's move on. I did say that these lessons are kind of easily understood, PowerPointed in very simple Arabic, because to study this science, it does require some background knowledge of Sarf and Nahu. And when you do sometimes pick up the classical books, it does become a bit challenging, like Talkhis al-Miftah, there's Durus al-Balagha, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, elevate the status of these authors. It's through their books that we've actually able to understand something regarding Balagha, etc. But it's our inability to actually, pick up these books and, derive benefit from them. It's our we're lacking, and our shortcoming, our lack of effort, really. But sometimes we have to simplify things, so that's why these lessons are presented in a way that they should be hopefully very easily understood So let's move on. So now al-fasahatu, we've covered the linguistic meaning of fasaha, and we've covered the technical meaning of fasaha. Now we need to understand, what is fasaha attributed to? What is fasaha characterized by? Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so first thing is, fasaha can be attributed to mufrad, means a word, a kalima. So we can say in Arabic, هذه كلمة فصيحة. This is a fasih word. So we're going from the word level to the sentence, and then eventually to the producer, the text producer, or the producer of speech. So fasaha, you can attribute that to a word. So when we look at words, we can say this word is fasih because it's not challenging on the tongue, or it don't contradict any rules of sarf, so which we'll come on to learn about. So fasaha is characterized by mufrad, means a word. So we can say هذه كلمة فصيحة. This is a fasih word. Note that here we didn't say harf, because obviously fasaha is not attributed to the to a harf or particle. Okay, so moving on, it's also attributed to kalam. Kalam means discourse or speech. Okay, so we can say هذا كلام فصيح. This is an eloquent discourse or speech. So fasaha is attributed to the word, and also kalam, meaning the speech. So we can say a speech is fasih. The kalam is fasih. What else is fasaha attributed to? Mutakallim. Now, mutakallim, we need to understand here, we should not get confused. I know obviously we have some background knowledge of sarf and nah, but mutakallim should not be confused with the sarf terminology of mutakallim, which we say first person. You know, like third person is ghaib, and the second person, the address is mukhatab, or in Urdu we say wahid, muzakkar, hadir, etc. If you know the Urdu version of sarf, but in Arabic they will say mukhatab, and mutakallim is first person. This is not what mutakallim is talking about. Mutakallim here means someone who produces written or oral speech. So let me just confirm that again. Mutakallim is not first person. It's the producer of text or speech. So for example, we say هذا متكلم فصيح. This mutakallim is fasih, i.e. either through speech, so he's either a poet, sha'irun, or he's actually producing the speech in the form of writing. Yes, so ismul fa'il, yes. So if you take it to the meaning of ismul fa'il, it makes sense. So you're kind of the linguistic meaning of takallama yatakallamu mutakallimun, someone who's actually speaking. Mashallah, very good. Okay, so you more or less taken into mutakallim here is the literal meaning, not the technical meaning in sarf. So when you say mutakallim, this can entail written or oral producer of speech. So fasaha is attributed to these three things: mufrad, word; kalam, sentence; mutakallim, speaker. And whether that speaker is through actual oral speech or written. So we can say هذا متكلم فصيح. Now before we move on, inshallah, to the next part, okay, is everything clear on this slide here? Any questions? Or we can move on, because inshallah I want to make sure that obviously things are understood. But don't worry about inshallah having a physical copy of a book. Hopefully you won't be disappointed. At the end of the lesson session, the lessons, there will be an overall summary of what we're actually covering. And like I said, it won't be in English. It's just going to be purely in Arabic, because covering this science, we need to be interacting with Arabic text more rather than looking for English translations and things like that. Okay. Hopefully that will get the best out of the lessons. You can review the lessons inshallah afterwards. Okay, it's fine. So let's move on. Before we move on, now what we're going to do in the next slides is actually break down each one of these. Okay, mufrad, kalam, mutakallim. So fasaha, how would we know that a word is fasih? How would we know that a kalam, the sentence, is fasih? And how would we come to know that mutakallim, the producer of oral or written text, is fasih? That's what we're going to be learning inshallah in the coming slides. So first we will be tackling the issue of a word being fasih. Okay, so here we have him. Okay, so al-fasahatu fil mufradi, fasaha, eloquence in the word, is when salamatuhu, when the word is free, min al-thalathati, from three things. So for a word to be classified as fasih, there has to be three things which are not found in that word. It has to be free from three things. So the first thing we have is tanafuril huruf. Tanafuril huruf, just literal translation of this phrase, you could say phonetic incongruity. Phonetic incongruity. Okay, so let's see if I can probably just put the English text there. I don't really like to put English anywhere, but let's just put this one down, so it kind of gives you a bit of the English definition. Okay, just can you see that on your screen? I just want to double check because obviously it's new for me as well, using all this technology through Zoom and teach it. You can, okay. Jazakallah, okay. So basically what it means is tanafur is a clash and al-huruf means letters. So there's a clash of the letters. What is tanafur al-huruf? So when we actually look at the definition of tanafur al-huruf in the books of Balaghah, it says, it's just over the red text, so a bit hard to read. It's just over the red text, so a bit hard to read. Okay. Okay, I'll just actually phonetic incongruity. Okay, actually I can put in the chat. Okay, so that'll be actually easier, so it doesn't interfere with just get my spelling right. I think I need to go back to school. Okay, that's the definition. Okay, yeah, mashallah, you got it, you wrote it down before me, mashallah. Okay, so I did say we're going to be learning off each other, it's not one way. Okay, so phonetic incongruity. So what is the definition of tanafur al-huruf given in the books of Arabic rhetoric? Let me just put the laser back on. هو وصف في الكلمة يوجب ثقلها على اللسان وعسر النطق بها. Okay, so tanafur al-huruf, phonetic incongruity, is a characteristic, wasfun, a characteristic or peculiarity, fil kalimati, in the word, yujibu thiqlaha, which causes or necessitates thiqlaha, strain and heaviness of the word, ala lisani, upon the tongue, wa usra nutqi biha, and difficulty of pronunciation of it. So what we come to learn is tanafur al-huruf is when there is some kind of characteristic in the word which makes it difficult and challenging to actually pronounce that word, or it makes it challenging on the tongue. So just remember these two parts here. ثقلها على اللسان is one thing, and عسر النطق بها is another. So ثقلها على اللسان means it's burdensome, it's heavy, it causes strain on the tongue. And the other thing is, it's nothing got to do with the tongue, it's actually got to do with difficulty in pronouncing the word. So two different things. Just keep an eye out for these two words. ثقلها على اللسان عسر النطق بها, because the example inshallah I will be giving will be of these two types. Okay, so let's look at the first one. We have the first word mustashzirun. That wasn't bad, was it? Wasn't that difficult? Well, it is. If you have to try to say this word 2-3 times, maybe you want to give it a go. Say this word mustashzirun 3 times within 3 seconds, and please put in the chat if you actually was able to say that, okay, without any difficulty. So I'm waiting for your response. Difficult, yeah? Let me give it a go. Mustashzirun, mustashzirun, mustashzirun. That's because I've been memorizing this word for so many years now. So lil maftul, mustashzirun is actually used when you plait something. Fatala means to plait, to twine, to twist. So when people actually plait the hair and it's raised towards the top, you say that is what? Mustashzirun. Okay. So we can see here the letters seen. Okay, let me just get the seen, za, and ra. You maybe want to include the sheen as well. It actually coming together of these letters has caused, heaviness on the tongue, made it difficult to actually pronounce this word. So now this word is actually will be considered to be غير فصيح, ineloquent, because it has the characteristic of تنافر الحروف. It has the aspect of phonetic incongruity, clash of the letters. So when the letters come together, it makes it challenging on the tongue. Let's look at another word. الذش. الذش. Okay, let's see. Just say that one. Is that quite difficult? Easier. Okay, I was expecting that answer as well, but because we're not masters of tajweed, okay, so we need to actually work on our makharijul huruf and sifat as well. When you actually break this word down to its sifat, okay, it actually does become challenging. It actually, what is this word used for? Al-mawdi'ul khashin, for a coarse place, a rough place. So الظش, 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 it may sound a bit easy, but let's break this down and get to the reason why this word is deemed ineloquent. Okay, so we have to have a bit of a tajweed lesson here. I'm not a master of tajweed, okay, but let's get this going. Okay, so now the letter the possesses the sifa and the quality of isti'la, elevation. So letter which is pronounced as a full mouth letter, we say. So it's one of the letters of huruf musta'liya. Khussa daghtin qiz. So dha is a full mouth letter. So one quality of dha is isti'la. Another quality of dha is itbaq, closure. So when you actually say the letter dha, if you was to put a hamza with a fatha before it and say al, the sound does not continue. There's like an abrupt sound or there's a discontinuation of the letter when you pronounce it. Al. Okay, so two qualities is found in dha. One is isti'la, elevation, and the other one is itbaq, closure. So the sound does not continue. There's discontinuity of the sound. Whereas when we look at the letter sheen, it has the attribute of istifal, declension. So it's an empty mouth letter, sheen. It's not a full mouth letter. And also it has the quality of infitah, opening. What that means is when you actually say this letter with a hamza with a fatha before it, ash, the sound continues throughout the mouth. So there's a kind of like a contrast between dha and sheen. Dha has got isti'la and itbaq, whereas on the other hand, the sheen has got istifal and infitah. So we're going from ascension, or you could say elevation and closure, and something becoming abrupt and sudden stop, to moving on to a letter which has got declension, empty mouth, and also the sound continues. So taking in consideration the sifat of these letters that are found in this word, it actually becomes challenging. Though we can say al-dhashu very easily. So does that make sense? If you can confirm in the chat, that when we're looking at the aspect of the sifat of these huruf, then this, okay, need to revise my tajweed. Yes, we all need to. Okay, we need to go to the masters of tajweed. Maybe we both need to enroll into qiraat course or tajweed course, and we need to fix our tajweed up, inshallah. Okay, there's always someone who can teach us much better. Okay. Yeah, so that does make sense. Okay, so let's move on to the next word. Okay, so before we move on to the next word, let's see if you can work this one out. Okay, mustashzirun. Is that ثقلها على اللسان, or is it عسر النطق بها? مستشزر. Is that الثقل على اللسان, or is it عسر النطق بها? So you can put in the chat, just put, is it heavy on the tongue or difficult to pronounce? There's two different things. Okay. عسر النطق. Okay. Say the actual word and tell me if mustashzirun involves your tongue. Does the word mustashzirun, yes, in general terms, difficult in pronunciation, but when we actually come to the third word, you'll know why I'm asking you this question. Okay, maybe let's carry on. Let's carry on with the third one. I'll explain the third one, and then it'll kind of make sense, because we haven't actually, it's hard to tell which one. How can we tell which one it is? Okay, don't worry, it'll all fall into place, okay, when we do this one, because at the moment you're using your tongue. Okay, so now this word al-hu'u, al-hu'u, okay, al-hu'u. So ha-ain, kha-ain, very challenging. لِنَبَاتٍ تَرْعَاهُ الْإِبِلِ. This word is used, okay, to explain, well, it's used to say for a plant which camels consume. Okay, so لِنَبَاتٍ, vegetation, plant. تَرْعَاهُ, okay, ra'a, yar'a means to, consume or graze, and al-ibil is the camels. So it's used for the camels that graze. It's a type of plant. Okay, how it looks like, etc., I'm not sure, but I do know this much, that it's difficult to pronounce. Okay, so the letters Ain kha, and ain, and even the ha at the beginning, all this together has actually made it a mouthful to pronounce. Give it a go and tell me in the chat that you find this very easy. Okay. Okay, so let's see if you say this word. You want me to say it's easy? Yes, I want you to say it's easy. So we can say this is fasih. Okay. Okay. So it's difficult. Al-hu. Okay. So now we've actually come across 3 examples. 2 of these examples will be thiql ala lisan, challenging on the tongue, and 1 is difficult to pronounce. So remember what I just said? 1, 2 are heavy on the tongue. Yes, so you got it now. Okay. So the first 2 is the tongue one. Mustashzirun. You're using your tongue. Al-lashu. You're using your tongue. But al-hu'khu'u. Al-hu'khu'u is all the letters of the throat. So it's nothing got to do with heavy on the tongue. It's difficult to pronounce. So has that become a bit more clear now? Okay. So is it if the tongue is involved, then it is immediately thiqal on the tongue? Yes. If it involves the tongue and the letters coming together makes it challenging on the tongue, then yes, it's thiqal ala lisan. And if it's something that involves your throat, then that is will come under usra nutqi biha. Okay. So the first thing we've learned that it has to be free from is tanafur al-huruf. Okay. واضح ما شاء الله جزاك الله خيرا طيب. Okay, shall we move on to the next slide? Okay, is everything clear? Okay, yes, you said واضح is clear. Okay, so let's just move on to the next one. Okay, so now the second thing a word has to be free from الفصاحة في المفرد سلامته من الثلاثة. The second one is الغرابة. الغرابة means oddity. Okay, so Oddity. Hope I've spelled that correctly. Okay, so we can give that definition: oddity, something being odd, strange. Okay, so what is the definition of al-gharaba? هي كون الكلمة غير ظاهرة المعنى. It is when the word is not apparent in its meaning. Okay, so let's look at an example. We've got the word here, taka'ka'a. Taka'ka'a. It means ijtama'a. Taka'ka'a means ijtama'a, which means together. Now, to give you a bit of background of this word, once the grammarian Isa ibn Umar, he fell off from his ride. So the people surrounded him, such a big Nahwi grammarian, he fell off his ride, and they just surrounded him. And when they surrounded him, Isa ibn Umar, he remarked, he said, "Ma lakum taka'tum ala taka'kukikum ala ذي جنة ifran qi'u. Ma lakum taka'tum." It's a very hard word to say. What's the matter with you? Okay. You have gathered around me. Ma lakum, what's wrong with you? Taka'tum ala kata'kukikum, like the way you have surrounded ala the jinnatin, one who is what? Mad. Ifran qi'u, move away from me. So sometimes some people, they don't want that attention, So he just out of frustration, he said, "What's wrong with you? Ma lakum taka'tum, you've gathered around." Okay, so he used this phrase taka'ka'a, yataka'ka'u taka'ku'an. And he means, in other words, he was trying to say ما لكم, okay, اجتمعتم. What's wrong with you? You've gathered around me. Okay, so this word taka'ka'a, it's very unclear in its meaning, until somebody doesn't know about this incident, or does not have any background knowledge of this word. They will think, is this word even Arabic? So it's actually, this word now will be غير فصيح, ineloquent, because it's not clear in its meaning, and it comes in the meaning of اجتمع. Next we have the word فدوكس. فدوكس actually means أسد, lion. Now in Arabic there are so many words that are used for the word lion. Okay, but one thing to remember, that the word lion, even though it has so many different words that are used for the word lion, none of these words really, from these words, fadawkisun is not the most common one used. Okay, fadawkisun is not the most common one used. So when somebody uses the word fadawkisun instead of asadun, we will say that that word is ghayru fasih. It's ineloquent because it's not clear in its meaning. You don't latch onto it straight away. There's actually two words that are actually used for lion, and there are the actual words that are used for lion, and that's asadun and laythun, like Faqih Abu Layth as-Samarqandi. So asadun and laythun. Asadun means lion, laythun means lion also as well. All the other words that refer to lion, they are actually descriptive nouns. They're not the actual word. Okay. For example, Abul Ashbal is also used. Abul Ashbal, so father of the cubs. Al Hawas, okay, the lion that roams at night without fear. Al Hawas. So all the other words that are used for lion, they're actually the describing words of the lion, or it's the kunya. Okay, but the two words that are used for lion is asadun and laythun. So fadawkisun is not commonly used. So it's ajib and gharib. It's strange, and it's not used as quite commonly. Okay. Next we have the word mushanfiratun. It comes in the meaning of muttasi'atun, to be spacious. So this word as well, mushanfiratun, okay, it's not commonly used. So because it's odd and strange, we will say that this word is gharib, and because gharaba is found, this word is ineloquent. It's not fasih. Okay, is everything clear on this slide? Everything on this slide? G, clear. Just that had the above question. Okay, could we say that this may be nutq as well as it is hard to pronounce due to the repeat? Yes, some words can have multiple reasons for it to be غير fasih. So taka'ka'a, if it's challenging on the tongue, yes, then we could say it's gharaba and also tanafur al-huruf. Okay, so inshallah we'll continue. Like I said, when we finish the lesson, I'll give you the whole summary of the lesson, but this is just a session that we've completed, inshallah, and hopefully, we'll continue from here next lesson. How would we know that a word is fasih? We've done two aspects: if they are found that causes a word to be ineloquent and غير فصيح. Inshallah, next week we will be covering the third aspect that makes the word غير فصيح. Okay, so inshallah, any questions before we log off? You can use the chat inshallah in the Telegram. That's during the week. If anything regarding the lesson you want to ask, please use the chat in the Telegram group, and inshallah more than willing to be accommodating and helping inshallah. And inshallah we'll continue from here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, to enroll for the course, click on the link in the description below. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.